want to cast on all of the things, and I am going to, most of them. So hello everyone, welcome back to my very small place on the internet where I talk about my knitting life, my knitting adventures. My name is Isabelle. I am in Normandy, in a undecided Normandy today between sun, wind, rain, and sun, and wind, and rain. And today it's going to be a regular episode about my knitting adventures, but a very unusual episode for me, because for the longest time I have been not quite of a monogamous knitter. At the beginning I was a very monogamous knitter. When I was young, one project I would buy yarn, knit it, and then buy yarn again for another one. For the last few years I have been sort of an organized monogamous knitter with an easy and mindless project, maybe a more difficult one, and maybe a clear one for the nighttime knitting, and a darker one that I would knit only during the daytime. A project that I could knit without thinking at all when I was in my little knitting sessions with my friends, either at the local yarn stores or someplace else. But I would usually go between 3 and 4 whips, and sometimes 0, and I would be all finished, and the world was open to me to decide what to cast on. Right now, I want to cast on everything. People say castonitis. I don't know if it is castonitis, but I have projects and so beautiful yarn I want to knit, and I want to start everything. So for now, I'm trying to go with the flow, started the project. That's what I'm going to be talking about, because I have only one finished object, of course, as I have started so many things. And I have a couple more in mind that I want to cast on, not in a short time, couple weeks, no more. And next weekend there is a little pop-up store by a local indie dyer at my local yarn store. Okay, and there is one woolly festival. It's not a festival the way Rhinebeck or Feltin can be. It's a very local, organized by the local city, very small city, about wool. And most of the activities are going to be for children and stuff like that, but there are a couple of my friends who are going to have booths over there. So if I am able to drive there, I will, and I have purchases in mind. Who am I? So if any of all of that I'm going to be talking about is of any interest to you, please stay tuned. Okay, so first things first, what am I wearing? I am wearing a t-shirt that I loosely executed from the Slater pattern with yarn I got at Le Fil de la Manche, one silk thread and one mohair, lace mohair, in this very beautiful purple combo. The mohair was a bit more dark than the silk, and I knitted this summer. I am wearing it a lot right now because it's the perfect piece. It's light, it's warm, and with the wind, if you have a wind-breaking type of jacket, even if it's just a single layer, the silk and the mohair make you very toasty and very warm. And right now, this is all of what I really need. And I'm wearing it with a caul that I did not have this combo in mind when I bought the yarn for the sweater. This call is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's the gingham neck warmer in double knit, so it's double knitting. I had never done any double knitting, so I said, okay, let me try. And I try one of the most difficult things to do with a color work pattern and the gingham. Everything is complementary from one side to the other, even the single stitches. So it was a bit difficult, but it was okay. It was okay. So the pattern is by Gabriela Papale. I will link it down below. And the yarn is from DMC Woolly. And it was a present from my son and his, at the time, girlfriend. I knit that in November 2022 and I finished in May 2024. It was a bit difficult. I think they got me the yarn for my birthday. Anyway, I did not use all of the yarn for the call. I have still one ball left of the yellow that I need to decide what to do with. I think I will make hand warmers. And I wear it with the No Pom Pom 2 hat by Intermstein that I also knit 2 years ago in November 2023, and it was an offer she had. I mean, I just checked. I am not receiving any of her mailing list publications. So on the website, there is nothing that is mentioned about a mailing list any longer. So maybe I will have to check that. But she offered me with a coupon code to use on Ravelry for a certain amount of money, and it was either the full price of a small object like the little hat, or I could use it as a discount for a bigger pattern, a bigger priced pattern. I have many patterns from her that I need to get anyway. I really love this little pom-pom hat or no pom-pom hat, and all of these three pieces go very well together, I think. And I've been wearing that quite a lot because the coal is perfect for this current weather. Whenever it's raining a bit, very fine rain as we have in Normandy, not rain that is going to go very deep in you. This type of little hat is really perfect. I love the stitch motif here that she designed and she came up with. And I really love this little lavender color. So who am I? From all of my blues, I am in purple and yellow. And this is what one of my friends told me last Saturday when I was at the knitting cafe at one of my local yarn stores. Okay, my one and only finished object. The longest socks of history in the making, in all knitters' history. I think I started them in April 2025 and finished them in October 12. So other than people who just forget about their projects in a bag and find the project maybe a year or two later, these socks gave me so much misery to make that I decided that for now, colorwork socks are not for me. The first one I made, and I've unraveled it. The first one I made, I need the colorwork inside out. I did all of the things and everything, and it was not fitting at all. I could not, I could, get it over my heel and stuff, but it was too tight. So what I did, from 66 stitches for this motif, I went to 72. So I added one motif and I went, and you will see, from 2mm needles here to 3mm needles here. So you perfectly see how the stitches are so much bigger in the color work. So both for the top of the sock and the bottom and the toe part of the sock. And once again, you can see how the stitches are so big compared to what is on the body of the sock. I love the yarn. The yarn is one I got at Lille Wesel last year when I went for a day in Paris, and it was my first day after my first hip surgery where I could go to Paris and do things. And one of my purchases was this Life in the Long Grass yarn. The color is pewter, I think. I really love the way the speckles are spaced. It doesn't pull at all. I love the color, the beigey type or grayish type of background, and with the little speckles. Some of them are blue, some of them are rust. I really love it. And to make the color work, we had a discussion, and to remember the discussion, because at first I had some kind of a mushroomy contrasting Filcolana color, and you said it may not be contrasty enough for the cuff. So I placed the burgundy one, and as I had the other mustardy type of color on hand, chartreuse type of yellow color or green color on hand, I was hesitating between the two. And you I really did not ask for, I did not make a poll or anything, but most of you said the burgundy would be better. And to remember that discussion, I used the chartreuse one to cast on. And I did make the color work at the tip of the toe, even if knowing how the top of the sock was going to be, I was kind of thinking I would not make it and rip the other one out and take it out. But anyway, I did go for the color work, the way the pattern was written, and I really liked it. And it's a heel flap and gusset type of heel that I know fit me. I love making this heel. Turning the heel is really fun. So anyway, now they are blocked, not quite blocked. They are washed and dried flat, and they are into my rotation. I haven't worn them yet because I just wanted to show them to you. And as we are talking socks, I might as well start with my whip parade and cast-on parade with the one socks I am casting on to finish the pewter Life in the Long Grass, because I really love this yarn. Okay, I forgot to say that the Kuura pattern was by Elena Joronen. I'm sure I write it down below as per usual. And I'm casting on a pair of socks. I'm self-drafting the pattern. I want to use all of the pewter. So I have two balls. This one is 1 gram heavier than this one, and I think there is 20 something. I don't recall exactly. So my project is to cast on with the contrasting color for the cuff. So I used the opposite of the Kuura socks. I made the cast on with the burgundy, and I used twisted ribs with the chartreuse one. The colorways are from Filcolana, so they are going to be linked on my project, at least, because these are all numbers, so it's not very easy to remember. And I started the first row on that, and I'm knitting that with a row counter. So this is my on-the-go project, where when I go to medical appointments, I have quite a lot of medical appointments too. I need to see the wrist surgeon next week or the week after next. I don't quite recall. I go to see, now I'm back into seeing the hand physiotherapist once a week and the hip physiotherapist twice a week. So I have opportunities to knit in waiting rooms, and I did not want to take my notes and stuff. So what I am going to do is knit a tube with all of what is left of this ball, I will know how many rows I will make, knit the toe, do the same with the other ball, which has a bit more yarn than this one. And once I am done, I will experiment with an afterthought heel. I have never done that. I like the idea of a pattern that you can bring with you without any notes, that is self-contained, either because you know how to do or that does not need you take notes. And that means you can travel a bit a bit lighter, or at least I can travel a bit lighter. So what I did cast on with the burgundy. I did cast on 66 or 63 stitches. I don't recall. 66, I think. I did cast on a bit more stitches. I'm not sure how many. I think I wrote them down. I hope I wrote them down. With the burgundy on a bigger needle, 3 millimeters, I think. Then I went to the 2 millimeter needles to knit the ribbing. Knit one row without ribbing, so that you see when there is a change in color, you don't see the purl stitches. I don't like that very much. I don't like when you see the purl stitches on ribbing whenever you change the colors. Some people do make sweaters all inside out from, with reverse stockinette or something like that, with the purl bumps and the change in color there. Just fine, but I don't like that. So if you knit one row up in front of my eyes, it will be better. One row with the first color, and then you knit the second row with your new color. You don't see the purl bumps with the ribbing. So this is what I'm doing. This one is coming with me. I'm knitting magic loop on 2 millimeter needles. I did buy these needles after I broke my wrists, because I'm used to knitting socks on, or small circumferences, I would say, because I'm a new sock knitter. I'm not, I started the year ago to knit socks for my sons, so I'm not a seasoned sock knitter. But I do knit with DPNs, because this is the way I've been taught to knit small circumferences, and this is the way I was comfortable doing. But now I'm knitting magic loop because of my wrists, and DPNs are a bit too tight. You have to change needles more often than with magic loop. So even if I do not love magic loop, even if I don't call myself a magic looper, I'm not sure I recall when the screensaver, once again, the screen went off. So what I was saying is, I'm not a magic looper. I've not been liking magic loop, but right now this is what I'm using because it's easier on my wrists and on my hands. And maybe this is the technique I'm going to be using now on. Okay, one down. Next, Herbivore by Stephen West, and I'm using a bag that I don't like very much, but it's a brown bag. And if you recall, I am knitting Herbivore with yarn from Brin de Malice, and a yarn that I bought when I was once again at Fil de la Manche. And she had said that this yarn was most probably going to bleed a bit and even stain my hands for a bit. It does stain my hands a lot. And so this is this colorway. So this is mainly an indigo dye that she over dyed with other pigments. Some of them are brownish. I don't recall, and she doesn't have it on her website. I would say it's with some kind of iron type of color or something like that. Anyway, I really like this gray type of color. You don't see the indigo very much, but sometimes you do see a bit more of blue. And I like this irony type of gray. And I said, okay, I can bear a little stain on my hands. It doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really matter. Let me tell you, it really does matter to me as I'm knitting. I have a pile of things I have everywhere. So some of you suggested, which is what I've done, to knit with gloves. And so this one. This is the glove I've been wearing to knit 4 rows on my Herbivore. And if I don't wear gloves, this is how my hand is. And on the other hand also, because I do move my knitting around with my hands, so it's unbearable. I mean, I will knit it. I will probably wash it with vinegar or something. Herbivore is a very nice pattern. Very intuitive, you don't have to think much about it. Once you've established, so the top is here. Once you've established where your increases are, it's always the same thing over 4 rows. So really an easy peasy type of knitting. I love it. I love the way it looks. I love the color. I love the way that it's going to be sitting on my back, and with 2 flaps that you can wrap yourself in. It's going to be some kind of a triangle shape, but as you are increasing also, so there are 3 lines of increases, as you are also increasing on the side and not only on the middle of the triangle. It's going to be with a bigger wing, with a smaller depth. I really love that. So I like everything about the pattern except the yarn I'm knitting with. So I'm going to be finishing it, and I will, wash it. And what I'll do is that I will wash the 2 other skeins I had got for one of you, and I'm not going to send that to you anyway. I will wash the yarn in the skeins. I'm not in the, in the skeins. I'm not going to wash that in the bowl. It's going to be impossible to do, and I don't have an itty nutty to place it on the skein again. So I'm going to wash the 2 remaining skeins with vinegar and see if it's better, and I'll find something to knit with it. So this can be an evening knitting because 1, it's easy. 2, the yarn is not too dark, so I see what I'm doing, and it would be the perfect knit to be, cozily knitting at home or knitting with friends when you are talking. The pattern, you can read your pattern easily and see where you are, but the yarn makes a very difficult experience, at least for me. Okay, next, in the bag that my mother gave me, that was one of her project bags, that I think she bought that one and she made a couple more. She could find one that she gave to me. So she gave it to me with a lot of yarn whenever she decided she could not be knitting any longer. And I have to take note of my needles. My interchangeable needles, I need to hoop them from one project to the other, so I may be buying some needles in order to be easier for me. So next project is Mare by Natasha Hornby, and I'm knitting Mare with, I think, so let's just do that. Yarn that I also bought at Le Fil de la Manche from a producer from Brittany, the very, very tip of Brittany in the Wesson Island. And her yarn comes from her sheep who are on the Wesson Island. And she mixes it with kind of the same breed of sheep that are on the mainland, but in the same area. So, but there is not enough sheep on the island to produce enough yarn for her. With these 2 colorways that she suggested, and this one is the a later bath of the redder one, and this one is kind of a brick red, but it's not quite brick. It's like like a tomato, like a tomato red, a dull tomato red, a bricked tomato red. And so I had gotten down to the first series of big motifs, and I had let the shawl on the side because I'm working on so many things, but I'm not sure what you have seen. Actually, I'm not quite sure what you have seen. So this is the way Mare is, and if I want you to see a little bit, because I don't have long enough cables, if you want, I want you to see a little bit. So you start at the top here, you make that type of stitch motif, and then you make what she calls popcorn or corn on the cob motif, and then you make the bottom motif that is a mix with slip stitches or mosaic knitting, and also stitches that you cross. So it's not really cable, or it's maybe just a one stitch cable that you cross to make the motif. I absolutely love it. It's a bit not complicated to follow. The chart is a bit complicated, but because there are a lot of rows, so you need to check wherever you are every time. So I do check wherever I am. But the thing is that it's the same chart for the 3 repetitions, and you see the repetitions are not aligned. Of course, one is in the middle, the center one is in the middle of the 2 other ones. And you have the stitch count for the first motif, but then you don't have the stitch count, you just have the final stitch count. So it was a bit difficult for me to follow everything appropriately without, so that I could retrieve myself if I made a mistake or stuff like that. Maybe if I put it there, it's going to be easier for me, but the cable is not long enough. Anyway, so what I did is place markers on either side of the repetition, which is 28 stitches, I think. So I had 2 sets of markers, one for the first position of the motif, because I was going to use it for the last one, and one for the middle motifs. What happened, I'm not sure I can retrieve where it is. I think it's here. You see, there are strands that are sticking out, because what happened when I was at that particular motif, I was not having the correct stitch count. And what happened is that I had dropped a stitch within the motif, where you have slip stitches and where you have one cable stitch. This yarn is so sticky that I could not find on either side the lost stitch. So, and I could not just, add a stitch and fake it because of the motif. It was not possible to do that. So I did unravel, so the top is here, but doesn't matter, it's symmetrical. I did unravel to the beginning of the motif, where I know how many stitches were going to be in the motif. And I unraveled just on the motif, and I did rebuild it again. I did that because I was thinking, I have no problem taking my needles out, unraveling some parts, and doing it again. It's not a problem for me. But in that case, I had stitch markers on either side of every motif for the 2 sets, because of course the beginning is not at the same place. And and you see these stitch markers that are dangling here. It's every 50 stitches so that I can count them easier. So I just had one at either side because I knew there were maybe 300 or something stitches in between, to be able to count the total number of stitches so that I can check myself with my increases, because Onyx is here and I'm going to be opening to him. Okay, not sure I recall once again where I stopped, but anyway, what I was saying is that I had stitch markers on every repetition that were, and so I had one series of stitch marker for that alignment, another one for the other alignment, and also stitch markers to count my stitches, because she gives you the count for the first motif and the end of the second and the third repetition. And it was not enough for me to make sure I was correctly increasing, because you don't increase on every row. You don't increase the same number of stitches on every row. Sometimes you increase one at either side, sometimes two at either side. I mean, it's so that the increases and the motifs work. I do understand why, but it was difficult for me to really know I was not making any increases mistakes without all of this procedure, and knowing that I was correctly placing all of the motif without, if I did not have stitch markers to check myself, I'm sure it would have not gone as smoothly. So I had no mistakes for that. But when I was to unravel, because I had a mistake, a drop stitch in one of these motifs, and you see these motifs, the stitches, the white or the clear stitches are crossed on top of the darker ones, of the red ones. So it's not like if I can fake it and add a stitch somewhere, because the shape of the motif would be different. So anyway, I could not just, take the needles out and unravel and put them back in, because I could not retrieve, I'm sure I could not have retrieved the position of my stitch markers. So I said, okay, my only chance is to unravel on the spot and rebuild it. So I used, DPNs, and I reknit the thing with the slip stitches, with the crossed stitches. It did work, because now if you look where my pieces of yarn that are a bit too long are, you can't retrieve it. And this yarn, I had pulled on the yarn in the back so that the motif looks like the other ones. This yarn is so sticky that it hasn't budged, and it won't. So I'm on the second corn on the cob section. So this is mosaic also, knitting. So there's going to be another one. There's going to be another section with these motifs. And if I recall correctly, there is one in each position, or maybe bigger ones. I don't recall exactly. And I'm over 400 stitches right now. So it's quite long. You can see the back. I always love to see the back of the mosaic and of the crossed stitches. Isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? I really love it. It's as beautiful almost on the back that it is on the front. So this one I can work at night. So last night I did knit a lot, because I had stopped at the top of the last repetition here. So I did all of these ones and the first 4 rows of the corn on the cob, because you need to knit two rows to knit one, because you knit one row with one color, then you come back and you knit the other color, and then you turn and you knit the wrong side for each color. So that's 4 rows to do one way and back. And as you have a lot of increases on this side, maybe, you increase about 40 stitches, so that's about 10% or something. You have lots of increases, so all of my markers were off. So I had thought I would keep them so that the position of the further section would be already there, and I would, no, I had to take them out. And when I took them out, so I did knit the first row, and at the end, she tells you knit like this until the last 4 and do this and do that. So I did that. And when I went with my next color, at some point I found maybe I need to make another video about who am I knitting with, because I was watching a show that had my interest, and I guess this is where I made a mistake. I had two red stitches, so I think I did knit twice with a red stitch without slipping for the clear one. Anyway, or do you start with a clear one? So I'm not sure I recall what I did, but anyway, I had to untick, so I did untick everything. I did not pull my needles out. I thought of it. I thought of it, but I did not do it. So I unticked everything. I unknit everything, and you say think. I thinked back to where the mistake was. So that was one row and almost all of the other one. And I went to bed last night. It was quite late, but I had finished the first 4 rows that just give you 2 rows of the corn and the cob. I think the section is about as deep as the first one. I haven't checked. And then there is another part with red, if I recall correctly, and then another section with that motif. And then you'll be quite close to the border. So the end stitch count is about 600, I think, stitches. So anyway, that's one thing. I need to buy additional funny needle stoppers. So I'm currently using my removable stitch markers in my shagu needles in the little holes. And if you are missing needle stoppers, this is a nice way to have your work not unraveling, in particular if the cable is a bit too short. But that's the longest cable that I'm having, and I'm not going to buy a longer one. This one is already 1 meter 25, or maybe it's on the Herbivore that I have this big one, but I'm not going to buy another one. So I may switch the cables between the two, I may not. But anyway, this can be evening knitting, provided I pay attention and I'm not watching a show that is of much interest to me. Okay, next one project you haven't seen yet. It's in a bag that one of my friends gave me. She actually made it for me. And with this kind of fabric and bags of coffee, I think she's been used bags of coffee in the back, and she lined it up, and she's been making bags for people. This is one group I go knit with during the Sundays, but I haven't been in a long time because I could not drive and I can't walk over there. So and public transportations during the Sunday is not, it's too difficult. It's too infrequent. Maybe there is one every hour, 1 hour and a half to go there for me from my house and to go back home. So I'm not bothering going for now, and I will go back again whenever I can drive. So this next project you haven't seen yet, and one of the balls is on the floor. The one you have seen is the Gujo collar I made for my sister-in-law for this Christmas present. And Gujo is by Egionit, and she's Caroline Skofgard Benson. And I made this color for her in a bigger yarn than recommended by the pattern. I used Holzgarn Cielo. It's a blown yarn. It's a very big, much bigger yarn. So I did make the calculations over again. And once I was knitting it, I was thinking, I want one for myself. So when I was thinking about it, I looked in my stash for something that would be very close to what Caroline has used in her pattern, and I could retrieve that cocoon yarn that I had bought many years ago. I'm not sure I recall. I mean, it's in my library, in my stash, in my Ravelry stash. But I had bought these skeins because she wasn't making the tie-dye colorway any longer, or she wasn't going to be making for a long time, and I really wanted to knit the sweater. I did not end up knitting with the tie-dye anyway, because she sent a message saying that she was going to go under production again. So I'm not sure where I had hidden these balls. I could retrieve them when I was looking for the other cocoon yarn, so I may not have said it's cocoon Aran yarn in the blue colorway, and this one is in the tie-dye colorway. So I have the slipover that I reclaimed from a sweater when I removed the sleeves, and I looked and I saw one person who did knit the Gujo color with cocoon, and she used 3 skeins, and this is all I have. I have 3 skeins of this one, which is a bit heathered with colors that are not homogeneous, and I have 3 other balls, skeins that I'm going to be giving to someone, which are plain homogeneous very dark blue that I love a lot. Anyway, I thought, okay, I'm going to be using that, and if this person has been able to knit with 3 balls, I should, and this is what is left of my second ball. So I still have one, and I'm very happy. Looking for other things, I did retrieve some of the tie-dye, because if I do miss some, I will go down to the back piece and see where it goes with that, how much yarn I'm using to do the back piece, and if I have enough to do the front with 1 ball. But the color did use more than a ball, because it's a big piece. So it's half fisherman ribs, and half fisherman ribs do eat a lot of yarn. And one Caroline has you do is actually knit it inside out. I mean, fisherman rib is reversible, so there is no inside and outside, but the usual outside side is this one, and I do agree that I prefer the ribbing from what is the usual inside part. So this is also what I liked, and I do recall I was knitting way back when I was a teenager and stuff like that with half fisherman rib, and I would always place that side right out, that inside out, because I like the ribbing much better. Anyway, so you see the heathered part, you see it's not a very homogeneous blue, it's a lighter blue than the other skeins that I have. So I've knit all of the color. I've made the sleeves or maybe the shoulder increases. I really like that. I've separated and I've started to knit on the back. So the back is a bit shorter than the front. So the front goes a bit more down to cover your chest a bit more. And what is nice with a back that is not too short but not too long is that it doesn't bunch up on under your coat and stuff. And the fact that there are little sleeves, or at least there is a part that is on the sleeves, makes it also very, very practical to wear under a coat during the winter time, because in that part you don't have anything that is coming into your sleeves, and sometimes if your coat is a bit tight on the sleeves. Anyway, so I'm knitting that. So I'm knitting that during the daytime, because this dark blue I can't knit at night. I don't see well enough. I do have these, lights that you wear around your neck, so I can use that if I want. But as I have other projects, I knit during the day on the color, and I keep my other projects with lighter yarn to knit at night. It's a very easy color. It's well described. You have a schematic with all of the number of stitches between front, back, and shoulders, and where you place the increases and everything, and the final stitch count. And there is no way, no way you can get lost into your knitting. The pattern is very well written, and I do love my little dinosaurs. Needle stoppers, or stitch stoppers that I got once again at my local yarn store. Okay, next one that I made with yarn that one of the lovely you sent me from Australia. It's in this bag that you sent at the same time. And this is with possum yarn. If you recall, if you were there during my first time at the hospital, I did cast-on reduplicate with this possum yarn in this purple color that is absolutely magnificent. And the touch of the yarn is everything. And it's so soft, and it's going to be very warm. And when I started to knit on reduplicate, I got stopped because I could not understand the pattern. And whenever I did wrap my head around the pattern, I did understand that all of the difficulties on the sleeves, because there is a stitch motif, all of the difficulties were because we were knitting looking alike, setting sleeves in the round. And I mean, it's okay. I mean, Marie Régnier writes perfect patterns, it's okay. But to me, knitting, looking like setting sleeves in the round, I'd rather knit flat and knit setting sleeves. I'd rather do that. So at some point, I was thinking it's too difficult, but we had chosen the pattern together, everything. So I was quite sad, and it took me a very long time to decide, one, to unravel, and then second, what to make with it. And once I unraveled, I was feeling so much better. So I am knitting Oiticica, but by Paula Pereira, in one of her books that one of my sons gave me. And you see, this project is sharing needles with Mare. So I've casted it on, and it's going to be easy to make. So you start with the color. I did make twisted ribs because I prefer twisted ribs. You start where is the beginning here. You make short rows in the back, and then you start with the color work. So I've just started the color work. It's easy. The only difficult part is here, because these are 6 stitches that are twisted, but twisted 2 by 2. So the first one is going all of the way, then the 2 ones, and then the 2 ones. So this one is a little bit fiddly, and I've lost my cable needle that is appropriate for that. So I'm using a needle, a plastic needle, that where the stitches do not go away, because on metal the stitches slide a lot. So anyway, this is where I am. It's easy. I usually prefer to knit on this yarn, the darker purple, during the day. So this is sharing with all of my darker projects for now, my attention for that. And the mohair I am using is Deep Stash, is mohair from the Pyrenees. Here is one hank that I haven't caked up. So this is mohair from the Pyrenees, and the lady does process her own mohair all by herself, in a mill of course, but she doesn't belong to the Mohair de France groups, and so she does have it processed for her, washed and skinned and dyed for her. And this Reseda color it was her first experiment. It's a plant-based dye. And this one had problems because it's bleeding a lot. So she had said that when I bought the yarn, and you know why I'm kind of mad at the other one, because if you tell me it's gonna bleed a lot, you need to wash the hanks beforehand, because it was an experiment that did not work very well. I'm okay with that. So I did wash the hanks. It did bleed a lot. I used a bit of vinegar to, to stabilize the dye, and I washed it several times, let it dry, place it back in hanks, because I did not untwist it. I unraveled the hank to, but this is what I did. I did not cake any of them to do that, and I'm okay to be doing this. Anyway, no more comments. So this one is doing very well. I like the colors together. I'm using 2 strands of mohair. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll go back to using only 1 strand, but when I had swatched, and if you recall, I had swatched with several colors, with several type of yarn and everything, and this is the one I liked better, and some of you like the white too. But I thought when I swatched, I have unraveled my swatch. When I swatched, I thought the 1 strand of mohair was a bit too thin into the color work to be visible. And I'm not sure I recall if Paula Pereira uses double-stranded, very fine lace mohair, I think, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm using 2 strands, and I'll see once the first motif is finished how it goes, and if I unravel just that part to knit it again with only 1 strand, but I think I prefer 2 strands. And I'm using a stitch marker that is from the Knit It from last year, that one of my friends who was there, did bring back for me. So I'm very, very, very happy with Oiticica right now, because I know once I'm past the yoke, is gonna be easy peasy. I will be able to take it with me to the little yarn store where I go knit with my friends, to knitting sessions elsewhere, because it's gonna be knitting in the round and it's gonna be fun. So I am very, very happy with that, and I really enjoy knitting it. And I mean, I cannot stress out how soft the possum yarn is. Next, another cast-on you haven't seen, another project you haven't seen, and you haven't even heard me talk about, because I just decided on the spot. One of my neighbors is expecting a baby after 10 years of medical procedures and everything. So it's kind of the miracle baby. She's 4 months pregnant right now. Everything is going okay for her and for the baby. So anyway, it's a bit of a more difficult pregnancy, but anyway, all is good. So I decided to knit something for the baby. The baby is going to be a baby girl, and she's due in March, I think. So I looked around, and I decided to make a baby blanket and a crib type of size, because in Normandy it's cold or not warm for a long time during the year, and the baby blanket is going to be of much use. And if I have a bit too much yarn, I can always knit something else, either for the baby or for my friend or for me or whatever. So I looked at baby blankets, and Persoho has many that are free, which is good. So it's now in my bag that I got at Fil de la Manche, and I settled on Macaron Baby Blanket by Persoho. So the lady at the local yarn store, she said, I know. I wanted some yarn that could be washed in the machine, not necessarily dried in the dryer, but dry flat, but washed in the machine, because baby items that are with real wool, this is not fake wool, but natural wool, you can't wash in the machine. it's a bit difficult for one new parents where a baby is gonna be maybe throwing up quite a bit, and also because you don't have time to hand wash your needs, and also because I don't know if she's aware and of the way she does her laundry. I don't know. She's my friend. We do it together from time to time. We talk a lot and everything. She's my neighbor, but I don't know how she does her laundry. So long story short, I wanted some kind of superwash yarn that would be soft enough for a baby item. So the lady at the local yarn store, she sells drops, and I've never been knitting with drops. Maybe because I was a bit nosy about it. I don't know why, but I never came around using drops. And so she recommended baby merino by drops, and this one you knit with 3mm needles. I think this is what I'm using. There are 175 meters per 50 grams, so that's a light fingering or fingering. And is that? No, that's 400. So a heavy fingering or sports weight. And so this color, the one color is, so these are all numbers, is number 2, and I'm on my second ball. So the Macaron Blanket, I really like the scallops on the side. So this is, the right side is here. And this is one of the Progress Keeper that one of you sent me from Australia too, one of the lovely use. So I'm decreasing on the scale up. It doesn't show much for now. So this is the cast-on here, at the bottom here. So you see I've increased, but it doesn't show much. It will block out, and I'm decreasing right now. So I change, I've already within my hands. I changed the ball. I used the second ball just after I passed the middle of the scallop. So I'm going to have enough, and there will be very little left over. I think I had a small nugget, but anyway, we'll see. So the first color is this white or cream white. The second color is color number 34, this plum. Who am I knitting with plum? So the lady at the yarn store helped me choose the color. So this one I said, I guess 34. The third one is going to be this kind of pistachio, and it's 58. The fourth one is this corally orange, and it's 36. How am I doing that? And the last one is this taupey one, and the taupey, there is a bit, it's taupe with the lights here and that on the camera. But when I look at it, there is a bit of a purple hue into it, and this one is 17. So this is how the blanket is going to be looking, and I really love that because, I mean, she's going to be very traditional with pinks for girls and stuff like that. But anyway, this you will have kind of a bit of the pink, but a bit of something else. And I think, you know, if she has a dark blue crib, that's most of the cribs. That's the way they are here. It's gonna go with that perfectly. It's gonna fit with that, and with, you know, girlish colors. If she's all in pink, it's gonna be okay. Thanks to the purple and this taupe. You know, here you can see it, that has a bit of purple into it. So anyway, this is the Macaron Blanket. The one in D-Dyer. I'm not sure I said that already. I think I said next Saturday she's having a pop-up store at my local yarn store, and she is very, very local. She comes every Saturday so that we knit all together at the local yarn store, and she's the one doing the pop-up, and she decided to knit a blanket for her own baby. She's due Maybe she's 4 months old. Or maybe they are due about together at the same time, maybe February or March. And so she decided to make the same baby blanket because she really liked it. Thing is, she said, there is no way I'm knitting with 3 millimeter needles. So she chose a much bigger yarn. But anyway, I am very much enjoying this baby merino by Drops. It's very soft, it's easy to knit, it's very springy, it's very easy knitting, and I'm gonna wash it by hand first so that I can see if any of the color escapes in the bath, and if it doesn't, I will tell her that she can wash it at low temperature in the machine, and that's gonna be perfect. So this knitting is also a mindless knit. You are increasing, decreasing at either end. You do the same increases and decreases at either the same at the beginning and at the end of the row. You do it for that many times, and then you do something else for the rhythm of decreasing and increases and decreases, so that you can have a scallop at the side. Easy knitting. So that's another knitting that I can bring to my local yarn store when we do have knitting sessions, and I kind of like this yarn a lot. Okay, next, my future cast-ons, and that are going to be casted on in the next few days or weeks, no more. In no particular order, because these are the bigger ones. I caked up the yarn that my son brought me from Ireland when he was on vacation. This is Aran wool from Kerry Woolen Mill, and it's the teal, and it's the teal colorway. So this yarn is 100% pure wool, 200 grams. So it's Aran, but it's the British Aran. I think it's worsted weight. I'm not sure I recall how many what the metrage was in the skeins. So I have these 2 skeins. I want to be making the South Sister hat. South Sister is by Liz Smith, and it's in one of my Land magazine publications, the one that I need Dazzler from, and there are other patterns I want to knit from her. Thing is, I'm not sure, I'm second guessing myself, because there is a lot of yarn, much more than what I need for the hat. So either I do knit the hat and something else, or I go with some kind of a hood scarf, with a longer scarf that I can tie around my head and not around, and so that it doesn't budge. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I really want to make the South Sister, and I want to make it in a lighter color, because when I started with the leftover of the dark blue Dererom Natura Gilead that I had used for the sweater, I ripped out and did something else, because the cables were not showing, the motif was not showing. So I think it's going to be showing very well. It's going to go with my Dazzler very well. So I may do that, but I have 2 skeins, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the rest, or if I'm going to knit South Sister with it. But for now, I'm very tempted about it, because I absolutely love this color. I love this color. It's going to be fitting me, I think. So we'll see. But South Sister is the best contender. Next, and I caked the yarn that my friend brought me from the Knit It this September when I was in the hospital. I think I did cut the yarn when I unraveled it to cake it. I can't understand if there is no rhyme or reason to the way dyers or producers make knots on skeins. Each time I have to cake up some skeins of yarn, I have to discover the method that is used to tie it up. But anyway, I think it's my mistake that I did, cut the yarn because there is 100 grams there. So anyway, so it's from La Ferme du Beau. I had seen this lady who is there last year, but she had brought me something else, and it's her Joyeuse quality. It's fingering weight, and it's an indigo dye. I will write the name again. Shibori, I think. Shibori. Anyway, so this is, I decided to knit it with the lighter mohair. I think the one that I've left over from Lang is not quite in the same tone. Not quite in the same tone. So I'm going to be using the lighter mohair. This is Mohair des Fermes de France in this, light blue colorway. And I'm going to be knitting Cayoni by Natasha Hornby. Some of you have said you wanted to knit that pattern again. It's a beautiful hat. It's a beautiful hat. Please give it a try. Tell me when you cast on, how you feel when you knit it and everything. I love these deep stitches. I love the very unusual construction. I love everything about this hat. And the last one is the hat for my son's music teacher. So I'm using the same yarn that I used to knit his own hat for my son a couple years ago for Christmas. So this is Fonty Kidopal. The colorway is, I guess it's a number, I'm not sure. Yeah, 298. Very sexy. And this one is Ambiance. Ambiance, so it's 70% mohair and 30% polyamide. And Ambiance is 100% wool. And the metrage is 120 meters per 50 grams in this orange colorway, and the colorway is 316. So at first, Paulin has said, my son has said, okay, he wants the same hat and everything. Then he second guessed himself and he said, not sure. I mean, you can make the same color, but not sure I want him to have the exact same hat as me. I wanted to have the unique one you made for me. So I said, okay, no problem. So I sent a couple pictures, 2 or 3 other pictures to him so that he shows to his teacher. This is just waiting for them to come back to me, because I will cast it on as soon as I can. Maybe Cayoni is going to be my birthday cast on. The caramel yarn, if I'm not completely decided, I'm going to let it simmer so that I can find something. But as soon as they get back to me, I will cast on the hat for his teacher, my son's teacher, music teacher. And he said, so there was the grandmother thing. We did all laugh together last time I talked about it. But anyway, he offered me, he offered to pay for the yarn and everything. I said, no, I don't want to be paid for my work, because given the hours I'm going to be spending, it's going to be too expensive. And I don't want to be him to pay for the yarn, because this one is one ball that I did buy for my previous, project, and I did not use. Anyway, so he said to Paulin that when they're going to be meeting in 2 weeks again, so I said, okay, send him an email so that he can decide, that I have, an idea before that. That he got me a book and some music, so CDs. So I don't know what it's going to be. Anyway, that is just, I like the way it goes when people do that together than when you do exchanges, and they are in this very different world from me regarding the music. I mean, I listen to a lot of music and everything, but it's like, when I drink wine, I can tell you this one I like or this one I don't like, and that's all. Music is the same. I listen to what I like, and I don't have any, formal formal knowledge and skills and stuff like that as I can have in knitting, because I've been knitting since I was 5 years old, and I've been experimenting all of the mistakes I could do. So anyway, he was saying, you are this and that and that, and I said, no, I just have been knitting for a very long time, and I've made all the mistakes possible. Anyway, so this is lined up, but you haven't seen everything. Next. Are you tired of me? Because it's not finished. It is not finished. Next. You may recall Paulin, my youngest son, has asked for a sleepover or a vest. Good. We settled on Cassis by Midori Hirose. It's in one of my land publishing magazines that I own. So I have the pattern. Good. It's, it can be worn by boys or men and women, so perfect. And he decided on the shorter color and the boxier version. Good. I did measure him. Perfect. So last summer when he was here, he was supposed to go at the local yarn store with me and touch the Red Rosa Pomar yarn that she has. She has Mondim and she has other yarns. So it's not the Mondim line. I'm not sure I recall which one matches the Cassis gauge. But anyway, I wanted him to touch the yarn because it's a bit dry and rough to the touch. So, and softness of a yarn is very individual. You can touch something and some people touch mohair and they say, oh, it's very scratchy. So I wanted him to touch the yarn before I buy it to knit it for him. He did not come with me. He did not go on his own. He went back and okay. So I said, well, okay, I'm going to knit that from stash because I'm sure I can find something. So I have this cone of yarn from Laine-sous les Pommiers. I think it's the 3-ply. Yes, it's 3-ply and it's the taupe colorway. And this is a 500-gram cone of yarn from Avranchin sheep that are an endangered species, and they make yarn. And it's a rustic yarn, but to me it's extremely soft. And he touched it and he said, okay, it's before he left, because he left on a Sunday or something. And he said, okay, yeah, it's soft enough, you can knit with that. So I had not tried, I had not swatched. And I was kind of double guessing myself because this is not going to be heavier enough for me to knit Cassis at the Cassis gauge. Fortunately, I swatched because I have never been knitting with that yarn. Fortunately, I swatched and I was at, I don't recall, 24, 25, 26 stitches when Cassis calls for 15 or 16 stitches per 10 centimeters. So I called him back and I said, it's not going to work. I can make calculations, I know I can adjust everything, but the difference is too big. And the way the fabric will look and the motif will look with a much thinner yarn is going to be very different from what you've seen on the magazine picture. So it could be nice, I'm not saying it won't be nice, but it's going to be very different. So I was back to square one and he said, okay, you're the specialist. Yeah, okay. But I was a little bummed because other than that, I was not thinking about any other yarn that could match the color he wanted. And he wanted some brown like this. When I went to bed that night, I said, I have mohair. Okay, so my swatch is on the floor. I have mohair from the Pyrenees. This is deep stash because I haven't been in the Pyrenees for 3 years now. So I'm not sure when I did buy this one. Maybe I did buy it even before. It's a thinner mohair. You see, it's a thinner mohair, but it's not lace mohair. It's bigger than lace mohair. I will write the number, the metrage for the skein, but it's not, she has bigger ones, she has heavier ones. So it's one of the thinnest ones, but it's not, absolutely not lace mohair. In this kind of, I think it's called chestnut, or the French for chestnut, colorway, that I think would match the taupish colorway from the Avranchin. And I would say wool from Normandy and mohair from the Pyrenees. He could like that, and he did like the idea. When I swatched, I also did like the fabric. So I'm not sure I recall which needles I used. I guess I used 5.5. Yes, I used 5.5, and I guess I used 5 or 6. I'm not sure I recall. Anyway, this is my swatch with the two yarns together. He likes it, and I like it too. You see, you see a bit of the darker parts that are from the mohair, the lighter parts that are from the Avranchin. I really like the finished fabric, and same, I don't recall if I have a 16 stitch gauge and Cassis calls for 15 or the other way around. So one stitch, I did the calculation, I have a 90%. I guess my knitting is a bit bigger, but I can, as it wants a lot of positive ease, one stitch different, even at this big gauge, I can manage to do that. So I'm gonna be starting Cassis for him with this yarn from the Pyrenees and from Normandy. While I was doing this, it was all in the same corner. I retrieved some other yarn from the Pyrenees. Way back. Maybe I bought that before the pandemic. I'm not sure. I don't recall. But anyway, and I was thinking, okay, I need to fix my cool jacket. I had fixed already the collar because I did not like the color, Cool Jacket by Neringa Rookie. And I had made the jacket with the sleeves at what she had recommended, and I'm not sure what I'm seeing on camera because I don't see it here. I had made the sleeves as she had recommended, and they were way too short for me because this big jacket that is very, very thick and dense is for winter time or cool time, and during the winter months or the cooler weather, having shorter sleeves, even if it was, the type of fashion we had at the time with, 3/4 length sleeves, with this type of jacket, I did not like it at all. So I fixed it the other day. And I'm using that yarn from the Pyrenees. So these are the hanks are that way. I bought it that way. That yarn you knit with 6mm needles. There are three huge plies in this yarn. It's called Burel. You see there are a lot of vegetal matter into it yet, still. And it's called Burel. Burel is this color of the dark sheep, so it's a natural color. And this yarn was produced by a man who used to have a mill in the Pyrenees, and he retired. And his daughter took over the mill, but she stopped producing yarn. So she has got sort of a little museum about the mill, and it's by a river because there was a river mill that was, making the machines work. So she has a small museum, and she has a small yarn shop too. And so I did buy some yarn over there long ago. And I made another sweater by Neringa Rookie with that yarn, the green yarn, and the Negal yarn. And I remember I had that brown when I was looking for yarn for Paulin, but this one is too big for Cassis. So when I retrieved it, I said, okay, I need to fix my jacket. I did fix it. So for the jacket, I used 12mm needles and 2 strands. When I knit the jacket the first time around, I did not hurt my hands. Never again. I'm never knitting with 12mm needles. But anyway, I have enough of this yarn left, and this is all that was left from her father's production. She said, we're not doing any additional production, and this is all that is left. So I'm not sure I recall how many cones I have. But anyway, I did swatch with 6.5mm needles. And this is what my swatch looks like. And I want to make a vest for myself. There is one from the 52 weeks of Easy Knits. I don't recall the name of the vest, and I don't recall the author, but I will place a picture and you will see the name. I think my gauge matches that, and I like the idea of this vest, which is knitted sideways, so you have vertical lines between, stockinette and garter, and then you do weave in other threads of other color horizontally. I like the idea. I think I'm going to be making that. So this is also lined up in my projects, in my future projects. And let me tell you, everything is around me, close to my hands, close to my eyes, not away from my eyes and not away from my heart and my sight. So there you have it, a very long episode about me wanting to cast on all of the things. And I don't know why I want to do that, because it's not my usual self, but I'm mostly a monogamous knitter. I like to start a project and finish it. Right now, I just want to cast on all of the things. Okay, next yarn I'm going to be getting. I have a birthday coming up, so I decided I was going to get yarn for myself for my birthday, as if I need any more yarn. No, I don't. But Frédéric from Atelier Pure Laine has been, so she retired from being a farmer and raising her sheep and making yarn and everything, but she could not stop altogether. So she transformed her business, because it was a business. She was making yarn and also selling sheep or for meat and everything. She transformed that business into an association. I don't think there are members to the association, but I'm going to ask her, because I think I will be able to drive and get to see her in the upcoming weeks. And if I want to go, it's because with her association, she went from something like 500 sheep she has, so she raises Hampshire Downs, to maybe 100, but she's still making yarn. And what she did is she created a yarn that she called the Inédit. Inédit means unique as in never seen before, where she mixes 80% of her own yarn with 20% yak. So she's been working with that mill that is near the Fonty mill in the Creuse area. And so it's Filature Terrade. Maybe it's Fonty. I'm not quite sure. I will have to check and I will write it down below. But anyway, any of them. And to create that yarn, and she's offering in different yarn weights. But she has a small production now. So there was the Journée Internationale de la Laine in Felletin last weekend. And I was thinking, if she goes there, she's going to sell everything. People love that yarn. It's a heathered yarn that is with the whitish background and the grayish type of headed part due to the yak. And people have said it's very soft and very nice. So I said, okay, she may sell everything. So I ordered a cone of that yarn in the sports weight, I think, weight, 500 grams. And I told her, don't ship it to me, keep it until I come, but I've paid for it. I did order through her website and said I will pick it up at her farm. So I will go there during the month of November. I hope that I will be able to drive. It's a 2 hour drive, 2 hours drive. I hope I will be able to drive and go there in November. I would be very delightful to see her and everybody again in her knitting group. There are, people she's been knitting with for more than 10 years and everything. So very nice ladies, very talented, very knowledgeable, very sweet people. So that's one of my goals in November as a reward for all that has been happening and for, just for myself. After I had done that, another thing happened. I was at one of my local yarn stores and she carries Aiseyer yarn. Okay, I know I've got Marilyn, I've got some tweed yarn from Aiseyer. I love their yarn and everything. And someone was talking about ordering some Aiseyer and she said, I have an order coming up, just tell me what you want and I will add it there. And it clicked in my head. You may remember, I got this book, A Knitting Life by Marianne Aiseyer, and it's Tokyo Tourist, because Marianne Aiseyer has been living in Japan for some time when she was younger, I think. And I bought the book for one pattern. The one pattern that I bought the book for is Muscle. So I will place pictures so that you can see better. Muscle is knit sideways with short rows. It's shaped with short rows and it reminded her of the kind of seashells she could find on the shore. And this is how she designed this sweater. Green. And I thought it was so perfect, so beautiful. When I looked at the patterns from the book, I did buy the book, knowing I would make that pattern at some point. I have been looking in my stash for a long time to find yarn that I could use and combine and everything. But there was nothing really that I could use without buying anything, and I would most probably be a lot of gauge. And anyway, so I ordered at the same time. So she hasn't placed the order yet. I asked her to get the yarn quantities in the very colors that are used in Muscle by Aiseyer, in the her Aiseyer, stockist. Or I guess she orders from them directly, and she says she can order about any time. The shipping is not very expensive. I did that once with Galan Sweater by Marie-Amélie. I had swatched with other yarn and the lace motif was not showing as well as the Julie Asselin yarn. So I did order the Julie Asselin, I think it's the nurtured line for the Galan Sweater. That's the only time I ever did that. So that's going to be a second time I'm going to be doing this. And so, it's going to be a double treat for my birthday. I guess I can do that, right? Last year has not been very nice to me, so I guess I can do that. Okay, if I can have your attention just for a bit longer, I'm just going to give you a little life update and a little health update, because this week is the 8th week post-surgery, my second hip surgery. And last week I did not give you any life update or health update because I did record the video just back to back with the previous one, so I had nothing to say much. So as far as my hip surgery goes and the way I am healing, I do have relapses still. I have relapses with pain in my thigh due to this area where there is a deep bruise that is not finished. It's still stiff and tight and painful, and the pain goes from there to other parts of the muscles and of the thigh. But these relapses are shorter and shorter. Last time I had a big one. I went for a walk outside. After less than 5 minutes, I was in so much pain. I had to go back home, and I was thinking, God, how am I going to go back home? Am I able to go back home? And I was crying in pain and in frustration because I'm tired of hurting. I mean, people who have chronic pain, I do feel for you, and I will be knitting for you, and I'm thinking of you because it's debilitating. It takes over everything of your day, your minutes, your hours, and there is nothing else than that. And whenever the pain goes away for a little while, you are so attached to this part of normal life, almost normal life, than when the relapse comes and then you are hurting again. I mean, it was difficult for me to accept the relapses. My physical therapist has been, perfect. She massages me a lot, and it helps me a lot. And now that I'm doing much better, that the relapses are shorter, I haven't had any for a couple days now. We are on a Tuesday, sorry. On Sunday, I did go in the morning for a short walk, What usually takes me less than half hour in my village, it took me 45 minutes. When I went back after walking for 45 minutes without a stick, because it's been raining a lot, there are sleeves on the ground, I'm not doing that again because I got a bit, I was a bit scared, but and anxious about, sliding on the leaves and falling again. But so this may be why I did walk a bit slower than even what I could do. But after 45 minutes, I knew it was time for me to go home. I knew the pain, it was becoming to be quite uncomfortable, but it was not, invasive pain. So I'm quite happy. We are doing much deeper exercises now at her office. And the other morning I did some watching a video about walking at home on the spot, because it was raining a lot, and as I said, there are many sleeves on the sidewalks, and I don't want to fall again. And I did that type of exercise with a video for 20 minutes. I think it was 20 minutes, but it was by 3 minutes with higher intensity of walking and lower intensity of walking every 3 minutes. And I could complete the exercise. Of course, at the end, it was time for me to stop. But, it's very positive, because now, whenever the relapses are coming, they are much, much less painful. So hopefully, fingers crossed, and cross your needles for me and everything, hopefully this is going to go much more. I will be able to walk on a more normal fashion without limping, and I'm not using my stick anymore at home. I'm not using my stick outside. And this morning I drove my car to the garage for the yearly checkup, and also we have to have an official test of the car every 2 years to be able to continue to drive it, or for the car to be on the streets legally. So I drove there this morning, and they gave me a replacement car for the day. And this is a manual car. Of course, mine is automatic, so it's quite easy to drive. I was thinking, I hope I'll be able to go back home with that manual shift car. No problem. of course, I did not, I did not race, and I was very, very, very careful. But I had no problem using the manual car. So all of this goes into the proper direction. I've started last week to go to the wrist physiotherapist again. So this is why you see I have this kind of tape that is to reduce the tension, so that the tape takes part of the tension and it reduces the tension. I don't have my full mobility, and in particular in my left hand. I don't have that. I'm not sure I will be able to. I have to do some mobilization exercises, the same I've been doing anyway. And it took me quite a long time where I was not doing any exercise when I was in the hospital. I had other things to think about. And, walking with the sticks was strenuous enough on my wrists for me not to do anything else. But now what happens is that I do have a lot of pain on the top of the hand, and this is not due to the surgery or the plaques or anything. It's just because I haven't used my hands enough. All of the joints here and all of the, I'm not sure I recall the name. I will write it down here. I have the French word in my head, whatever. It did get shorter. So I need to close my hand, to close my wrist, and pull on my hand, to pull on all of the back of the hand, the muscles and whatever, for them to go back, stretching again and into a stretchier position, and to elongate again, because as I have not been using them enough, they have shrunk. And this is what is hurting me. So mobility wise, it's not perfect. Range of motion wise, it's not perfect. And I can't do that. I don't have any strength. If I want to pull on a surface with my hand in that position, and you see, I compensate with my elbow and with my shoulder, because I can't, the angles, and this one, the angle is even less than what I can do with that one. So we have to work on that. I'm not sure I will go back to normal with my wrists. I'm almost certain I will go back to normal with my thigh, but I'm not sure I will go back to normal with my wrists. In particular, I have no more strength. I can't put pressure on my wrist. It hurts, and it hurts, the wrist part, as soon as I put pressure on there. So we'll see. It is less of a loss or of a difficult part, these parts, than my hip would be, and if I was to go limping all my life and with pain. So it's okay. I still have two months out of work, or months and a half out of work. So I'm going to take it easy, says the one who has 1 million project to start, to cast on and to knit on. And I've been back to the movie theater, and would you be interested? I film one of these videos I used to make back in the days, about who am I knitting with, because I've been knitting a lot at home. I've been watching a lot of series and stuff like that. I went to the movies, so I can tell you which movies I went to see. I've been listening to a lot of music. So if this is of, if you would like me to film one of these videos again, I will do that, because I've been discovering new artists, new music, and I know some of you did enjoy that very much. So I may do that. In the meantime, I hope everything is going well for you, my friends, even for the ones I know who are experimenting health and life difficulties. I'm knitting for you. And I'm sending out my little stitches to you when I do knit. And I knit quite a bit during the day, you've seen, and mostly at night, because I do other things during the day, but mostly at night. And yes, I do hope that you enjoy your knitting, that your knitting is bringing you joy and happiness, that you can shield yourself from the news and the outside world without locking ourselves out of the world at all, not at all, but from time to time. Shield yourself from the news, concentrate on your knitting, concentrate on your happiness while you are knitting. Create happiness into your stitches and send them out either for yourself or for other people, because as you are doing that, that helps building the inner feeling of happiness that we need even when we are bombarded with bad news and strange news. I mean, I'm not gonna not gonna talk about that, but I know you know what I mean, and sometimes we do discuss about that in the comments down below. But I mean, the world is crazy. The world is crazy. People are doing crazy things. People are, in my opinion, paving the ways to even harsher times. We're not doing the right things. Our leaders are not doing the right things. I'm afraid of that. But anyway, let's finish on a positive note. I hope your knitting is bringing you all the joy and all the happiness that you need. And I will be sending, sorry, there is a cat in my throat. That's what we are saying in French. Anyway, I will be sending out joy and happiness to you. I thank you a lot for being here with me, for bearing with this very long video. I have no idea how long it's going to be. And I hope that it will not discourage you, that you will subscribe if you liked it. And I hope I will see you next time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top. Top. I was at my little cafe. The color it's heel and I had stitches on either side of every motif. And I kind of decided to make a baby blanket and a cozy, type of size, because, or crib type of size. Okay, next, my future cast-ons. Most of them you've already seen, or I've already talked about them. One of them not. So in no particular order, sorry, I did kick into the mic, with the yarn that my son brought me, and I top, and I use these ones, or what? I did write that down somewhere. What are you? Anyway, I did swatch with 6mm needles. Will I be able to read that?